or its universe, other than the fact that both my roommate and Total Biscuit seem to love the series. I don't really like tactical games like that, though. But this figure is insanely well sculpted. I can give you credit for that. That piece is horribly gorgeous. Well, I recognize the Destiny logo right there, and I happen to know that quite a few of you guys are Destiny fans who are still playing that game to this day. Destiny 2 has also been announced now, I think, which I'm looking forward to see what they learn from that. This looks like a scarf, though. Yep, and a nice scarf at that. Wow. Here is something from Ratchet & Clank, a series that to this day I have yet to play, but I do know people who are obsessed with it. And the reason they're obsessed with it is because of the insane weaponry in that game, and apparently the latest game was no exception. I saw it on a few best of the year lists. I have no clue. Oh! This is, well, it's an ink pen. Let me tell you something. If you work at a checkout and people are always borrowing you pens, they will not keep this one, I promise you. Here's the pen, which kind of looks like the space shuttle, but I don't think that it is. It's probably from some game I'm too stupid to recognize. And then the thing about a lot of the offshoot crates, rather than a book, you actually get a poster. These posters are pretty good if you have a lot of wall space, or if, you know, the person you're getting the loot crate for is a little bit younger and they love this kind of stuff. Cool poster. And on the back it shows you all of the different stuff you got for the month. Oh, plus with the Loot Gaming, they call the Mega Crate the Epic Drop. I still ain't going to win it, though. And speaking of Loot Gaming, the January Loot Gaming is based off of Mad Science. It's got a Resident Evil item, which I'm excited about. There's Portal and some other cool stuff. I'm really hoping it'll be good. And if you order before the 27th of January, you can guarantee that you'll get that box with that theme. But no, you don't have to do that. You can always just come back next month and maybe watch me open mine, depending on if I do gaming that month. But guys, whether or not you order a Loot Crate, just by watching this video, or dropping a like on it, or adding it to a playlist, or subscribing to the channel, or sharing it, or even if you just watch this silly thing to add to that view count, know that you are doing me a great service and help supporting me and my family and my channel, and we thank you guys for doing that. As always, thank you guys very much for
Hey guys, Desolate Magic here, and it's time finally for another MTG Mistakes video. This topic was something I kind of hit on before, but I didn't really take this spin on it, so I figured, you know, taking another approach to kind of saying the same thing would probably be beneficial and kind of worth its own video. When you're testing a deck, or when you go to FNM and you think your deck is good, you think you got it worked out, and then you do poorly, like, don't just assume automatically at that sample size, as they call it, that the deck is bad. Because of the design of Magic the Gathering, the variance from luck, as they call it, is going to be enormous. I mean, it depends deck to deck, because, you know, if you're literally just running 40 creatures and 20 lands, and they're just all lifelinkers, like, that would actually be a really funny deck. But that's your deck strategy. It's so unlikely to backfire. I think that, I heard something like the universal number of the amount of games the average deck would get mana screwed or mana flooded is like 9% or something like that. I don't know, I just heard that number thrown around, but think about it, 1 in 10 games you're gonna lose because something related to just the luck of shuffling and the luck of the draw is going to lose you the game. So if you're incredibly unlucky and, you know, just the right cards don't meet up at the right time, on a very small scale, do not assume that your deck is built wrong. Like, you could do all, you know, the math and the planning and I guess I'll stop short of saying play test it, because if you jump on X-Mage and play 30 games and then you go lose 3 times at FNM and you won the 30 games, you're not going to assume that out of 33 games, oh, all of a sudden the 3 at FNM are more important. No, but if you just built the deck, you for some reason didn't test it, which this whole video is invalidated by the fact that you could test the deck on a very high volume online very quickly. Or better yet, instead of a human opponent, because they're slow as hell, play it against the computer. I mean, you don't need to know that you can beat the computer, you need to know that your deck works, just period, in a vacuum. Unfortunately, you have to have somebody to play against. So just play against some blah dummy deck with just, you know, some walls, some creatures, maybe some flyers, whatever, just something typical, average, just vanilla blah deck. You know, not like, oh, give them 5 kill spells and 5 death touchers. That would not be a very good deck testing deck. And then, you know, just test it at the high volume. So on the flip side, what people often mistakenly do is they build a deck, they never play with their friends before FNM, or they play 1 or 2 games or something, so they don't really truly test it. So then they go there and they lose, you know, I don't know, they go 1 and 3. We'll say 4 rounds, they go 1 and 3, and they lost, and then lost 1-1. I mean, that's about as bad as you can do without just getting wiped. So people take that sample size of 9 games, which sounds like a lot, but it really, really, really isn't. And they say, okay, what happened? Okay, I was flooded on mana. I need to go from 21 lands down to 20. No, you very rarely need to go from 21 to 20. That would be a bad idea. What you should do, as opposed to just making assumptions based on small scale, which is the mistake that everybody makes, realize that there is a huge luck variance. Luck is huge. I mean, it's like everything in Magic the Gathering. You can only do so much. If you are confident that you made no mistakes and you made no decisions incorrectly, like looking back, you're like, oh, if I would have killed this, I wouldn't have lost the game. Or, oh, if I would have mulliganed, which that's the number 1 most common thing people do is they screw up. They probably should have mulliganed, instead they kept it. Okay, so if you can look back to the start of the game and say, no, that was a solid hand. I started with what I needed. It was an acceptable hand within the math. The probability stated that the deck should have worked. And I lost because I pulled nothing but spells and no creatures. That is going to happen once in a while, and the more complex your deck is, the more likely it is to happen. So I'm not saying just run the most simplistic decks ever, although, I mean, that is a strategy. It is a legitimate strategy. I'm just not saying everybody should do that. But just realize that, I mean, not even a combo deck. I mean, I always use this as an example. 20 boost spells, 20 heroic creatures, 20 lands. I basically built a very slight variation of that deck. I went to FNM with it. And one game I pulled not enough lands, couldn't get anything out. Another game I pulled too many lands. Another game I pulled nothing but spells. Another game I pulled nothing but creatures. If you paid 3 mana for a 1/1 heroic creature and then didn't pull a single boost spell all game, yeah, you're gonna lose. Okay, that's just bad luck. But you're waiting for, I mean, if you think about it, you're waiting for like 2 or more lands, 2 or more creatures, and 2 or more spells to be drawn in the first 3 turns. So that's 10 total cards. I'm not even going to do the math on it because you should be able to estimate it in your head. You know, 5, 10, 15% of the time, whatever, you're going to not get that. Now, in that case, if it keeps happening, you almost definitely should have mulliganed and didn't. But if you mulligan to 5 or 6 every game and then just started because it was like, okay, fine, a 3-cost creature, another 3-cost creature, and 3 lands. All right, and then you just never pull a spell. I mean, that's luck. There's nothing you can do about that. Except that there is commonly something that most players can do about it. Learn to shuffle better. Learn to randomize your deck better. If you did the complex math, the draw luck, the hypergeometric distribution, everything, you know the probability of your deck, and it is fine-tuned down to the very last card to have exactly the right amount of mana, the right amount of spells, the right amount of like control and scry and draw and everything so that it's optimized to work perfectly. At that point, it's out of your hands. So just realize that if the deck backfires a couple times, it is just bad luck. Luck is so huge, and you cannot interpret bad luck as being a bad player, making bad decisions, or building a bad deck if you know for certain with logic and math that you did not make a mistake. And that is what most of the pro players will tell you. In fact, if you ask the pro players, because somebody did this in an interview, they went around and asked a whole bunch, what is your least favorite part about Magic? Or what's your least favorite part about, you know, losing a tournament? Or why do you lose tournaments the most? They all say the same thing, except for one. Luck. It's just draw luck. And they almost always just blame lands, just simply lands, having lands in the deck. Because, I mean, you look at the other games and you just, like, you go up a tier, you get crystals or whatever, and it's all automatic. Whatever the energy is in the game, it's either automatic or it's much more likely to occur. Having lands in the deck and be part of the deck, and yet you need them every single game, just opens you up to losing X% of the time. That's just simply how probability works. You can mulligan your butt off when it, you know, shows its nasty face, so it's a 1-land hand. Okay, ditch it, mulligan, everybody knows that. But at a certain point, you're going to mull the 5 and still not have enough lands. So the number one complaint is, oh my gosh, I had 8 straight wins and then, you know, 6 more straight wins. Actually, that would be a pretty good record. Day 2 starts, round 1, and you lose because you just couldn't get lands on the field. It's nothing about your deck design if you're confident that your deck design is perfect, so you gotta have the math and logic to, you know, back it up. And if you go through the whole game and look at your decisions and say, was that the right decision? Should I have, you know, kept this mulligan or mulliganed it? Or kept this hand or mulliganed it? Should I have used the removal spell on this or kept it in my hand? Should I have cast this first and then that creature later? Would that have been a wiser decision? And not just, you know, through the 2020, you know, hindsight, like, oh, I wish I would have done that, but it actually was a smarter decision at the time, so, you know, don't consider that. Like, if you blew up a 5-5 instead of a 2-2, and then it turns out later in the game that you shouldn't have done that, no, you still at the time should have done that. I mean, yes, blow up the bigger creature, unless you had a damn good reason or you could predict the future and knew that some weird combo was going to go off with the 2-2, you know, or that it was going to get resurrected from the graveyard and the 2-2 wouldn't have, or, you know, something like that. If you didn't have that information at the time, you still did make the correct decision based on the information that you had. And also, you know, based on the current board state. So if you're confident that your deck is perfect, you're confident that your decisions were perfect, which, you know, they should be if you're just a moderately good to pretty good player. I mean, I only make about 2 mistakes per entire F&M. I know because I pay attention and count them and memorize them so I don't make them again, obviously. So sparing that, if you just cannot get out land, because people are like, I got 24 lands in my deck and I got land screwed, you know, 4 games out of 10. I'm gonna dump in 2 more lands. No, the math says do not dump in, what would it be, 26 lands. No, you probably shouldn't go up to 26. You know your mana curve, you know the average cast cost, and you know the consequences of not getting to 3, 4, and 5, and then based on the power and importance of the spells that cost 3, 4, and 5. Weigh that against the probability of being drawn and then the probability of getting shorted on mana, and perfect your deck. Simple. I mean, the math, it's hard, but it's not that hard. So don't, you know, take results that happened in real life on the small scale, or even on a medium scale. I mean, unless you played 1,000 games, you don't know, you know, how your deck's really gonna work. If you played 5 games, that's nothing. You shouldn't even draw anything from that. When people say they're play testing a deck, they mean they're not missing triggers, they're not making the wrong decision, not, oh, I'm seeing if I have the right amount of land. No, that's what math is for. You don't need to play test that. So I guess I would say never use real life results to contradict what you know the mathematics and the probabilities say. And if they are not ever meeting up and you keep seeing recurring problems that mathematically should not be there, like you keep getting something happening that's only a 1 in 10 chance, but it's happening way more than 1 in 10. Well, that's simple. Learn how to shuffle, because you are shuffling patterns into your library. Oh, that, or you're like a 1 in a billion level unlucky, but I doubt it. The way I always tell people is if your deck isn't randomized, if it isn't random, then you're not going to get what the probabilities suggest as a result. I mean, that's really, really, really obvious if you know how probability works. It's like, oh, if you're flipping a coin and it comes up, you know, 65% heads instead of tails, then guess what? You've probably got some kind of weight balance or a dent in the coin or something. You're not starting with a random thing. It's not a random circumstance, so you're going to get skewed results. Simple as that. So a lot of people just, they sweep up their land pile, plop it down on top of their deck, and then they shuffle but not properly, and then they keep hitting mana pockets. Well, yeah, that's you. So sparing all that, sparing mistakes, sparing mulligan decisions, sparing deck building and math, you know all that's perfect and you know you're doing well enough at the game. Luck, luck, luck. Do not let luck indicate what you should change in your deck. I don't care if 3 games, 4 games, 5 games just backfired for the same reason. That's just, okay, it's luck, it's variance, whatever. Too bad for you. I mean, some days you just can't pull land. It's just whatever. If your math suggests you do have the correct amount of lands in, do not throw in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more lands just because of a result from a couple games. That is so stupid. At any tournament, expect luck to bite you in the butt a certain amount of times, but remember, it's going to bite your opponents too, so it should technically even out. That's not exactly how luck and probability works, but, well, I don't know. It's a really simple way of saying it instead of drawing big graphs and crap. Also, in general, the universal law of probability, do not forget that past results do not influence future results in any way whatsoever. That is a law of physics in the universe. If you got mana screwed on your first 3 games, do not expect anything different than exact probability results to happen in the next couple games. your last couple games have no bearing on the future games. So that's just one more reason that if you're sure everything is perfect, you're absolutely sure that you did not make a mistake in deck building or playing, and you keep losing for a certain reason or different reasons or all different reasons or whatever. I mean, unless you can blame the sleeves or your shuffling, no, it was just luck biting you. You just had a bad day. Don't let anybody who doesn't know what the hell they're talking about tell you that luck plays no factor whatsoever in Magic. I mean, you even talk to a professional poker player. They'll tell you. Bluffing, reading other players, and generally just giving yourself, let's say, a 10% advantage overall. You're playing 10% better and making 10% smarter decisions than the next guy. 10% is enough to run an entire tournament, okay? So that's why they'll have books about how to just improve by 0.5% and then just make this decision a little bit better. Okay, now you're 0.1% better. The more you build up just this gradual little outplaying everybody, the better. But a lot of pros that get kicked out in the 1035th spot will tell you, I was outplaying everybody, but you can only bluff so many damn times. I couldn't pull any cards. The good cards did not come my way today. You can't just say it's 100% skill. Once in a while, the luck is just not on your side. And remember, as the sample size gets smaller, that's when the variance gets bigger. That's the other universal law of probability. If you flip a coin 10 times, you're probably not going to get 5 heads and 5 tails. It could be 7 and 3. If you flip a coin 100 times, do you really think it's going to be 70-30? No, not if your coin's not broken. It might be 53-47 or 55-45, but I mean, you're not going to get 95-5. So if you play 10 games of Magic, I mean, that's nothing. That's such a stupidly small sample size. You cannot base, you know, what happened because of luck and variance and probability. You can't use that as a basis for modifying your deck and making changes to it. And I see people do that all the time. It is such a stupidly common mistake that people make. Trust the math. Have 100% faith in the math and the probability that you did ahead of time, and just ignore the results. Unless you're an idiot and you keep making mistakes. Then pay very close attention to the results and blame yourself. But then again, it's not that hard with at least some decks to play Magic completely, absolutely perfectly, make 0 decision flaws. So, you know, then it's back to luck. It's just 100% luck. Don't let anybody tell you different. They're probably just lying to give themselves a better position at the next tournament and just to spread misinformation because they think it's funny and they laugh at it because they're a sociopath. Very, very typical sociopathic behavior. But even from just long-time players, I've heard people say, well, just play it a couple times to see how it does and then adjust your mana base from there. Yeah, play 4 games and then use those results to adjust your mana base. Are you kidding me? How about you use math? Oh, it's just unbelievable. I've just heard such stupid statements like that at FNM. I've got to start writing them down so I can make more from this series. And if you guys have an idea that I haven't covered yet, which, I mean, this has got to be like number 35 or something in this series. I don't even know. I can't imagine what I haven't hit on at this point. But this one, oh yeah, I probably should have hit on it earlier. But if you have any suggestions that I haven't covered yet, leave them down in the comment section, and I will see you guys next video. Hey guys, Nelson Magic here, back with part 2 of the insane broken combos and 8 revolts video. I honestly have no idea what I'm going to end up titling it, so we'll just call it that in the meantime. So yes, in 8th Revolt there are some massively broken combos, and I would not say broken cards. I don't know, what would be the last broken card? I mean, Ugin? You don't need a combo to break the game with Ugin, okay? Ugin is just Ugin. He comes out and breaks the game by himself. I mean, even like Avatar the Resolute, it doesn't need a combo. I mean, yeah, it kinda does, but I mean, that card is just broken, period. It's too powerful. Standalone too powerful. But this time around, there's not really many cards that I would say are standalone too powerful. I mean, yeah, there's like Gear Hulks and stuff, but yeah, you gotta have big creatures, and they're not outrageous. So in the last video, I covered just the red-white vehicles deck and how it all comes together in combos, has such resiliency, redundancy, and no matter what you pull, it ends up you're swinging with a 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 damage creature way the hell too early in the game for it to be fair. I mean, it's almost impossible to compete with it. The only thing that beats it is removal, period. That is it. That is the only way to shut down this deck. Still, that pales in comparison to some other combos. Now, these are not entire decks, but they're just combos. And the best thing is, a lot of them are colorless, a lot of them are dirt cheap, and they work perfectly with other cards. So they could be dropped into a deck without it becoming a single purpose, I have to get the combo glass cannon. Like, you know, it either goes off or it doesn't, and if it doesn't, you lose. No, this can be dropped into a deck, and then, oh look, I hit the infinite loop. But if you didn't, you could still legitimately win the game, because it would still be a solid deck. Oh, and then there's the scry every single upkeep, scry every time you get one energy, and, you know, Smuggler's Copter's gone, thank God. But, contingency plan, basically super scry 5.
Yes, my grip upon this realm tight.
Hey guys, Desolate Magic here, back with part 2 of the insane broken combos and Aether Revolts video. I honestly have no idea what I'm going to end up titling it, so we'll just call it that in the meantime. So yes, in Aether Revolt there are some massively broken combos, and I would not say broken cards. I don't know, what would be the last broken card? I mean, Ugin? You don't need a combo to break the game with Ugin, okay? Ugin is just Ugin. He comes out and breaks the game by himself. I mean, even like Avatar the Resolute, it doesn't need a combo. I mean, yeah, it kind of does, but I mean, that card is just broken, period. It's too powerful. Standalone too powerful. But this time around, there's not really many cards that I would say are standalone too powerful. I mean, yeah, there's like Gear Hulks and stuff, but yeah, you gotta have big creatures, and they're not outrageous. So in the last video, I covered just the red-white vehicles deck and how it all comes together in combos, has such resiliency, redundancy, and no matter what you pull, it ends up you're swinging with a 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 damage creature way the hell too early in the game for it to be fair. I mean, it's almost impossible to compete with it. The only thing that beats it is removal, period. That is it. That is the only way to shut down this deck. Still, oh, that pales in comparison to some other combos. Now, these are not entire decks, but they're just combos. And the best thing is, a lot of them are colorless, a lot of them are dirt cheap, and they work perfectly with other cards. So they could be dropped into a deck without it becoming a single purpose, I have to get the combo glass cannon. Like, you know, it either goes off or it doesn't, and if it doesn't, you lose. No, this can be dropped into a deck, and then, oh look, I hit the infinite loop. But if you didn't, you could still legitimately win the game, because it would still be a solid deck. Oh, and then there's the scry every single upkeep, scry every time you get one energy.
Corsair has launched its new flagship keyboard, the K95 RGB Platinum. We took a look at this as kind of a first look at CES, and as a fan of the K70 and K70 RGB that I've been using for quite a while, I'm kind of curious to see whether or not, well, I'm excited about this one. They bring a few new features and bring back some old ones that people kind of complained that they were gone. So let's go ahead and crack her open, play around with it, and let's see exactly what Corsair's bringing to the table. Hey, that's a pun. I didn't even mean to do that. Whatever, go with it. Now I'm going to start with the wrist rest because this is one of my favorite features. It's removable, of course, that's a big deal. It's got some of its own rubber on the bottom here to make it an anti-slip. And of course, it has got, as I showed at CES, the magnetic reversible wrist pad here. So some people like a more textured pad, and some people like a more smooth pad. Well, now you can just choose the one you want, flip it around, stick it in the groove, and it's gonna stay because it's magnetic. The only thing that kind of sucks about this rubberized texture here is it does pick up dust and fingerprints and dirt really quickly. I've been handling it here for only a few seconds, and it's already got dirt on it. So you'll probably be cleaning this quite often. The only other thing you get inside the box here is, of course, some warranty information here for Corsair. Make sure you fill out your warranties, because that way if something breaks, how else are they gonna know that you bought it legitimately? So, all right, well, let's get this crap out of here and let's look at the keyboard. Here she is right in here in all of her spectrum waving goodness. Now this is the part that kind of turns a lot of people off, I think, with RGB, is they think, oh my god, stop with all the RGB. But let's talk about this here for a second. People complained when there was a color scheme, because what if you didn't want that color? Well, RGB was a thing now because you can customize the color to be whatever you want. Anyway, one of the first things you might notice that's quite a bit different with this Platinum keyboard versus the standard K95 RGB that was before this one is you have one row of macro keys right here instead of 3. Now there is also onboard memory on this, so you can save 3 user profiles to this that go with you wherever you go. One of my major complaints I had, especially with the K70 RGB, the color profile I would load didn't actually work until it was plugged into a computer that had Corsair Link on there to allow it to load the profile. It was saved on the machine, not on the keyboard, and that was a huge mistake in my opinion. Now it's saved on the keyboard.